I was having the worst anxiety of my life. I just felt this little inkling in my stomach that maybe graphic design as a 9-to-5 career path was not for me. Dude, the universe is testing you, okay? You can stay at your job, or you can take this one life to become an artist, which is your actual passion. I have one choice here. It is to continue down a safe path where I will be anxious forever, or I can quit and start a life for myself. I quit my full-time job to become an artist. Do I regret it? Welcome to the first episode of Artist with a Dream podcast. I'm going to be talking about what started this whole dream, which is me quitting my corporate design job. I quit my design job exactly a year ago today over text. And since then, I have painted 17 murals. I'm illustrating a children's book. I was in my very own art show, and there have been so many doors open for me that I just could not even imagine a year ago. That said, quitting my job was one of the hardest things I had to do. I was terrified. Let me give you some background, okay? I graduated from college with a graphic design degree because some people in my life suggested that, well, if you want to be an artist, you could be an artist, but you should be a designer. That's still art, but you can make money from it. And I thought, okay, I want to make money. Money's important. So I'm going to become a graphic designer. So when I was a senior in high school, I applied to a few colleges and I got into Laguna College of Art and Design, where I studied, and I got my BFA in graphic design with an illustration emphasis. So there was still some illustration in there. I was still drawing and painting, which is good. Right out of college, I got a job at an ad agency as a designer, or I guess as an art director, as they call it. And I thought it was really fun. I was working on a fast food brand. I was making social media graphics. I felt like I had a big girl job, and I did. I was working in an office. It was a beautiful office. The coworkers were really nice. It was fun. It was new. It was exciting. Then I went to Europe for 2 months and I did a backpacking trip, and I came back and I continued working at that office. I worked at that agency for 2 years in total. Let me just say, I have nothing against graphic design as an art form. I still use my graphic design skills all the time, to edit videos, to make the logo for this podcast, to typeset the children's book illustrations that I do. I think graphic design is really cool. Some of my favorite art is graphic design. Like, I love merchandise for concerts and stuff. But I just felt this little inkling in my stomach that maybe graphic design as a 9-to-5 career path was not for me. I remember there were a lot of days at the ad agency where people would say to me, oh, when you become a designer or a copywriter at an ad agency, that is where artists go to die. And I heard that and it kind of scared me. I was like, is this settling? Nah. It just pushed all that anxiety out of my head. So I stayed at the agency for 2 years. I loved my coworkers, but the work, it was kind of menial, I guess, I got into art because of drawing and using pencils and crayons and markers and using my hands and using my imagination. And I was just making, Google banner ads and social media posts and things like that. It was really hard to leave because I thought, okay, if I leave this design job, I'm just gonna have to get another design job. And this is the best office I can find. I loved my coworkers. Everyone was so nice to me. It had so many benefits. I had dental insurance. I had vision insurance too. I was getting contact lenses. My teeth were getting checked up. I was getting checkups. I was getting my flu shot. I had all those insurance. I had a salary. I had that monthly paycheck. The money was good. But I had this little bit of anxiety that was in my stomach, And I'm learning now you can't avoid that anxiety or it will get worse, okay? When I was working that job, I would be going into the office once a week, and the other days I would be working from home. So I would wake up and go to my desk, sit and wait for Microsoft Teams to tell me what to do. I would sit there from 9 to 6. I would take a little lunch break and I would just feel deteriorated. On the weekends, I would have some time to hang out with my partner, hang out with my friends, but then it was back to the grind. And I wasn't passionate about it, but I thought that was the only career path for me. At this time, I wasn't really doing art at all. I was sketching in my sketchbook sometimes. I had never painted a mural. I barely painted, Like, I'm a muralist now, but honestly, I never used paint until I started painting murals. Near the tail end of me working here, I was having the worst anxiety of my life. I was having terrible insomnia. I could not sleep. I would maybe get a full night's sleep every third night, but I just had such bad anxiety. And I can see now part of that was because I was working somewhere and putting all my time into a job that I just didn't really care about. Another part of it was family issues, which we could talk about in another podcast, but I had to cut some things out of my life. Whether through my choice or not, the universe was telling me, dude, something's wrong here. You need to make a change. So how did I end up making that change? Well, one day my sister called me. She was studying abroad in Copenhagen. I heard her call me. She's there for 4 months. I can hear the smile in her voice. She was so happy. And I was sitting there at my desk, working at my agency design job, and I felt so deeply jealous. I felt, why does she get to enjoy her life, but I don't? Why does she get to travel and I don't? I love traveling. Obviously, I did the 2-month backpacking Europe trip, and that was so fun. And I just felt so jealous. I was like, why does she get to study abroad, but I don't? And that was the first moment that I made a gut decision. Up until that moment, I was only thinking with my head, like, okay, we do things for money, we do things which are safe. But I made a gut decision, and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna study abroad too. That's my choice. So I went on Google and I typed in graphic design Mexico. I love Mexico. My partner and his family are from Mexico City. I love Mexico. I taught myself Spanish. I love the culture. I love everything about it. So I knew I wanted to go to Mexico. And I just typed in graphic design because I'm like, okay, well, I still have to do graphic design. I can't just go to Mexico without doing graphic design because graphic design was my passion. And then this program popped up called Adelante Abroad. I actually did a mural for them this year, which was a full circle moment. But this program popped up. It said, you can study in Oaxaca, Mexico, in whatever career field you would like. And there were programs you could go for a month up to a year. And I was like, what if I just went to Mexico for 3 months? I had never heard of Oaxaca up to this point. I could barely spell it or pronounce it. But I applied. I applied to a 3-month program to volunteer in Mexico with my graphic design skills. The program was you get set up with 6 different businesses. It's catered to every individual. So somebody could do it for like cooking or somebody could do it for finance or whatever. But I chose design and illustration. So I was paired up with 6 businesses in Mexico to help with their branding. I was terrified and excited. It was the first big thing I had really done for myself by myself. I would be going by myself. And I told my boss, I told the people at my job, hey, I'm gonna be going to Mexico for 3 months and I will be back, I promise. And they were honestly a little nervous, but supportive. Again, I only have good things to say about the people at that agency. They were amazing. They supported it. They gave me a little goodbye Zoom. Everybody was so excited for me. And I was so scared because I had never done something this crazy. It was crazy. What do you mean I'm gonna live abroad in a country which speaks Spanish, and I'm gonna have to use my Spanish and just navigate a new country by myself? It was terrifying, but it felt like the first thing I did for myself as an autonomous woman to do something for myself that I was really passionate about. As I was in that goodbye Zoom that my coworkers threw for me, well, they thought I was coming back, but it was like a see you later type Zoom. One of my favorite coworkers / friends, Kristen, she said to me, why don't you paint a wall down there? Isn't Mexico known for having really awesome murals? And I was like, dude, why would I do that? I don't even know how to paint. Like, I barely draw anymore. And she was like, you should ask. You should try painting a wall. I think you would be really good at it. Kristen, if you're watching, I just want to say thank you for saying that, because that comment changed my life. I thought it was so crazy. I'm like, I cannot paint a wall. That is insane. I work on computers. I use Adobe InDesign. I don't even know how to use paint. What kind of paint would you use? Whatever. But I'm like, you know what? I'll try. So I sent an email to the coordinators of the program and I asked, hey, would I be able to paint a wall when I'm down there? And they're like, yeah, we'll set you up. This restaurant would like a wall. I'm like, all right. So that would be happening in 2 months from when I left. So I was leaving in September of 2024. I would be painting the wall in November. Yeah, so I say goodbye to my coworkers, I pack my bags, and I arrive in Oaxaca, Mexico. I am like, what is happening? This is all so different. No one's speaking English, so I gotta practice my Spanish, use it on day one. It's such a culture shock, but I feel invigorated. I'm eating tacos, people are talking to me all the time. The culture is just like so much love. I feel so taken in, and it's just so much healing was done when I was in Mexico. But the whole time, for the first 2 months, I'm like, all right, I literally was thinking to myself, I was like, okay, I'm gonna enjoy this for 3 months, and then I'm gonna come back to the US and just be depressed again. But at least I did this for myself. I guess this is it. I guess this is the peak of my fun travel times. Maybe I'll save up some vacation days to do this again, but I better enjoy this while it lasts, you know? So the first 2 months, I am just living my best life. I'm talking with people, I'm practicing my Spanish, I'm going to Spanish classes, I'm also doing graphic design for different restaurant businesses, but I'm illustrating. I love illustration, so obviously in my design, I naturally go towards illustration, I make some cool branding stuff, whatever. Then it's time for the mural. The mural is for a restaurant. It's this big white wall. I have no idea what I'm doing, okay? I talk with the owners, they're super nice. I'm literally talking with them in Spanish of like, here's my idea for a mural. I'm already struggling with the Spanish, and then I'm struggling to know, how am I even gonna paint this? So I do this design, this mock-up. It's just a bunch of little characters of their food personified as cartoon characters. And then I'm like, okay, what do I need? Do I need paint? I'm not using a freaking paintbrush. I'll just use a paint marker. So I go to the art store, I get one black paint marker, and then I don't even have pencils. I ask for a pencil from the, from the owner, and I'm like, how am I gonna do this? I didn't have a projector. I didn't know how to use a grid system. So I just had my phone in my hand, and then I had the pencil, and I was just looking down at my phone, sketching onto the wall these little characters. I was shaking, I was so nervous. People were watching me. I was like, I just had to fake it so hard. I had no idea what I was doing. So I paint this mural. I come into the restaurant every day. We share a delicious lunch every day with all the workers of the restaurant. I'm having a great time. I'm listening to music in my earbuds. I'm on a ladder. I'm talking to people. I'm painting. I'm drawing. I'm nervous, but I'm having fun. 3 days later, I finish the mural. I step back and I'm like, oh my God, that was so fun. That was the first time since maybe high school where I felt deeply, deeply connected to art. I felt like my true self. I couldn't stop looking at it. My friends were coming by and looking at it, the friends that I made in Mexico. I felt so supported. Everyone thought it was so cool. The people in my house were coming by to see it. I just felt so proud of myself for the first time. And I was like, this has potential. At this point, I still was like, I'm not quitting my job, I'm coming back home, you know? A few days later, I went to this secluded, nature-y section of Oaxaca called Etla, where I would be staying in this house in nature. It was very serene, very peaceful. I had a lot of time to just be with my own thoughts, which is terrifying, but necessary in this world of healing. And guess who DM'd me? Somebody DM'd me in Oaxaca and they were like, hey, I saw the mural you did for this restaurant. Can you paint my food stand? And I was like, somebody wants to pay me for a mural? I was like, no way, I can't do it. But I did it. Immediately when I got back from living in the nature, secluded house, I got on painting it. I got some paint. I only used 2 colors, and I actually used a paintbrush for the first time. I literally have not used a paintbrush for years before this point. I got some random acrylic paint and I just started painting. I just did the sketch mock-up thing and I started painting, and I had no idea what I was doing. Again, there were letters involved, typography, which was really scary, but I did it and I painted it and it turned out pretty good. And I was like, oh my God, this was so fun. I was obsessed. I was making a video about it. I was documenting it. I was so proud of it. I was talking to people as they were walking by. I got pretty close with the owner. He was so sweet to me. It was just such a loving, creative, pure experience. And again, my gut was like, dude, you like this. Maybe there's potential here. But I was like, okay, cool. Well, this was fun, but I'm gonna go back to my job because I need a paycheck. I need money. So a few days after that, my Oaxaca trip was still ending. And I was doing one of my walks. It was nighttime. I do a lot of walks and I just talk to myself to get through anxiety. I was doing one of my nighttime walks and I whipped out my phone to do a voice memo. And this was a turning point. This was a big turning point because I remember I was talking to myself on my voice memo and I was like, dude, the universe is testing you, okay? You can stay at your job or you can take this one life to become an artist, which is your actual passion. I'll play some of it right now. It's 12 minutes long. I'll just play some clips. Okay, Hannah, it is time to be more real and honest with myself than I have ever been in my life. What is the thing I have been doing since I could remember? The one thing in this life that has brought me just pure joy? Drawing. Who said that I can't draw for a living? I have always been obsessed with putting pen to paper, pencil to paper, marker to paper, crayon to paper, and drawing. Why would that not be a possibility for me now? Because it doesn't make as much money? Number one, that's not true. I am such a hard worker. I will find the money. I'm not paying rent right now. Who am I kidding? I don't give a about typography or like After Effects, motion. I've never cared about that. I'm an artist. I'm an artist. What jobs sound actually fun to me? Working at Knott's Berry Farm and being a caricature artist. Working at Trader Joe's and making hand-lettered signs. I am a great artist, but I paused on my learning of art and started learning graphic design, which I got very good at very quickly. If I could get that good at graphic design in 4 years, how good could I get at illustrating and drawing? Because that's where I actually want to shine. Why would I do art on the side when it's my calling, when everything in this universe is telling me it's my calling? Why would I trade my happiness for money? When I'm 80 years old, I'm going to look back at this moment and say, either, damn, I regret choosing to go to a stupid graphic design thing that I never really cared about, or will I say, damn, Hannah, I'm so proud of you for finally listening to your little kid self and saying, yeah, I'm gonna be an artist as for my living. That is my passion. Thank you. Bye. So I felt invigorated. I felt like, okay, now is my chance. I have one choice here. It is to continue down a safe path where I will be anxious forever, or I can quit and start a life for myself. Once those wheels started turning, I started texting all of my friends and my dad and my partner. I was like, you guys, I think I want to quit, but I don't think I can. And they were like, you got it. You can quit. You can do it. I believe in you. I'm so happy for all the support I received. And then I had to make the decision to quit. I was so scared. I literally had my sketchbook and I wrote down, okay, what can I do if I quit my job? What are some dreams I have? What are some dreams I've always wanted to do? And I wrote down some cool job ideas. It was like murals, YouTube, illustrate children's books, tutor art to kids, teach art to kids, do more art. It was just a bunch of art things. And I was like, I don't know how I'm gonna make this work, but these are some ideas. I'll just do it. That night, I texted my boss. It was a long paragraph. Now, if I quit a job, I would probably make it a lot shorter. It was a long paragraph. I'll read some of it. Hey, some bittersweet news. After a lot of self-reflection, I decided I'm not going to return to ad agency name when I come back. It hit me like a truck that my passion has always been drawing and art, and I've kind of shoved it under the rug so I could get a solid paycheck, which of course is nice, but in my heart, agency life isn't necessarily where I want to be right now. I think as I was painting the mural here, I felt so happy that I've never felt before, and if I really dedicate myself to this, I could do art for a living. That was like half the paragraph. It was really funny. In retrospect, I'm like, why did I text my boss something so heartfelt? But she's a really great boss, so I felt close to her and I felt like I could do that. It was bittersweet, you know, because I made a lot of friends at that agency and it was hard to send that text. I was so nervous, but I sent it. Obviously, she was like, well, maybe you could come back for a few months and, you know, just work on your dream and also work here. And that tempted me. I was like, yeah, you're right. I could come back for a few months and keep getting a paycheck and then plan out my future. But I knew if I did that, I would get sucked right back into it. So I said, I'm sorry, no. I would be doing myself a disservice if I did not go fully into my dream of illustration. And she was like, okay. Actually, I don't even know if she responded. But you know, it's all love there. Okay, so I quit my job and suddenly my life was open. Let me say one thing. I was not paying rent at this time, which gave me a big privilege, okay? I was living with my dad and I did not pay rent. Well, I helped with rent a little bit. My main things I was paying for is my car bill, my phone, car insurance, stuff like that, but I was not paying rent. So I had the privilege to just chill for a little bit, which I understand is a privilege, and that gave me freedom to pursue my passion. And I'm so grateful that my dad at the time had a safe place that I could just pursue my passion. My dad is one of my #1 supporters. He was fully supporting of me to quit my job. He had a home for me to stay in. It was great. So I came back to the United States with no plan. My plan was, I want to get more murals. At first, my plan was to work part-time graphic design and part-time murals. So I did a few freelance design things on Upwork, but that really wasn't working out. My other plan was to tutor and get money that way. So I was tutoring a few kids here and there, but that kind of ended up not going well. People moved on. I wanted to give up on myself so many times. I still do a lot. It's hard when you don't have a paycheck that is coming all the time. But I didn't quit because I was like, okay, there is no way I'm going back to agency life. I already quit. It would be so embarrassing to come back. And I just can't. So I sat myself down and I was like, how do I get murals? How do I get murals? I talked to every single person I know. I'm a muralist, I need a wall. I'm a muralist, I need a wall. I emailed so many businesses. I cold called so many businesses. I printed out these little flyers and went door to door handing them out. Eventually, I got my first mural at my yoga studio. I was paid in yoga classes and they saw something in me. I'm so grateful for that opportunity. I'm really proud of how that mural turned out. I am really proud. You can watch the video on it. But that was my first mural. And I was like, I still love it. I still love it. It's great. I still love it. And that just inspired me to keep going. I worked so hard to get murals. I still work really hard. I made a Google business profile. I made a Yelp profile. I joined classes at my local art college where I graduated just so I can be around other artist folks. And it's happening. Slowly but surely I'm getting murals because I am putting my full self out there into the world and receiving what I put out. I know for a fact if I stayed as a graphic designer, I would have stayed there for the rest of my life and had a very anxious life. So I listened to my gut, and it's scary, and it's really scary, but it's working. Slowly but surely it's working. So do I suggest you quit your full-time job to become an artist? Yes, but make sure you have some sort of financial stability. Like, I could only quit my job because I was living with my dad. Maybe I would have quit my job and then got a part-time job somewhere, but I really think whatever it looks like for you, it is so important to listen to your gut. If you are working somewhere where you're like, I really don't like this, my dream is something else, pursue that dream. Whether you still have to stay at that job, pursue your freaking dream. Like, I know it sounds cheesy, but what? Are you gonna become like 80 years old and look back at your life and be like, wow, I really wanted to become a violinist, but I didn't. I just stayed working at that office job. It's like, that sucks. That sucks, and you could change that. I don't want to sound like, oh, it's so easy, just quit your job. I know people have children, people have bills to pay, but if you really want something, you will find a way to make it work. If that means working on your dream at night or in the off days or whatever, I really think it is important. If you have a dream, especially as an artist, find ways to make your life something you're proud of. That's really important. And your gut and your intuition will tell you what your dream is. I have a hard time listening to my gut. I'm always anxious. I'm always up in my head. But when my gut told me to go to Mexico, when my gut told me to quit my job, those were things that were meant to be. And I'm very happy I listened to my gut. So do I regret quitting my job to become a full-time artist? No. Is it easy? Do I feel financially stable? Hell no. But I don't regret it. I would really regret if I did not pursue murals or art. That's what I would regret. So yeah, thank you for listening to episode 1 of Artist with a Dream. I'm really excited to keep making episodes of this podcast. I'm really excited. I'm going to be having some guests on soon, some other artists with some other dreams. So please stay tuned for that. If you liked the video, please sure to like it and subscribe, and let me know in the comments down below what other topics you would like for me to cover. I'm down to talk about really anything. I want to hear what you guys think and some ideas that you guys have. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you in the next video. Bye. Hopefully that wasn't